The shocking reason you hate reality, Nietzsche was right, there's something you probably don't say out loud, but you feel it in the quiet moments, that when the noise dies down and there's no one left to impress. It's this: you kind of hate reality. Not every second of it, but often enough that you catch yourself drifting into daydreams, distractions, scrolling mindlessly, escaping into fantasy, fiction, or even just numbness. It's not just boredom, it's not just stress. It's the nagging sense that something about reality itself feels wrong, that like it doesn't measure up, like it's missing something. And that secret dissatisfaction, that subtle loathing for the real, is more common than we think. But here's the twist: Nietzsche saw it. He called it out more than a century ago. And he told us something we didn't want to hear. That our hatred of reality isn't just personal, it's cultural, historical, and deeply philosophical. And it's poisoning us. Let's start with the most inconvenient truth: reality isn't here to please us. It doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't bend to your will. It doesn't apologize when it punches you in the face. And deep down, that offends us. You and I, we've been raised in a world that whispers one idea louder than any other: that life should be fair, that it should be meaningful, that suffering should make sense, that good things happen to good people. But Nietzsche would laugh at this, not because he was cruel, but because he saw how this belief, this hope, this demand that life be just, is the very thing that makes us weak.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
According to Nietzsche, we've built a civilization on the lie that reality should conform to our expectations. And when it doesn't, instead of adapting ourselves to the world, we resent the world for not adapting to us. This is what he called ressentiment, a kind of spiritual bitterness that emerges when we feel powerless. When we can't defeat reality, we start to moralize it. We call it unjust. We judge it. We turn our inability to accept pain into a moral system that condemns the very forces that created us: chaos, conflict, suffering, death. And from that resentment, Nietzsche believed, came the invention of morality as a weapon against life itself. Now stop. Think about your own life. How often do you find yourself thinking, it shouldn't be this way, that people shouldn't lie, that you shouldn't have to struggle so much, that the world shouldn't be so harsh, and that you shouldn't be aging, that your dreams shouldn't be this far away, and that your pain should have a purpose? But Nietzsche flips that entire attitude on its head. But what if the problem isn't the world? What if the problem is the lens through which we're looking at it? Here's the shocking part. Nietzsche didn't want to fix reality. He wanted us to love it, not in a sentimental way, not in a just be grateful way, but in the most radical, terrifying, muscular way possible. He called it amor fati, the love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, but embracing it, saying yes to every part of life, even the suffering, even the failure, even the horror. Imagine that. Imagine loving the worst moment of your life as much as the best. But could you do that? Could you face the raw chaos of reality without flinching? That's the standard Nietzsche sets. And most of us, if we're honest, fall far short, because we've been trained to escape, to run, and to blame, to numb, to hide behind ideology, religion, consumerism, even therapy, anything that helps us avoid the brutal indifference of the real. Nietzsche wasn't against healing, he was against illusions. He didn't want to rescue us from pain, he wanted us to grow teeth. to become strong enough to face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. That's why he respected suffering. Not because it's good, but because it's real. And anything real has the power to shape us if we stop resisting it. So now I ask you something difficult. What part of reality are you still fighting? What truth do you keep denying about yourself, about the world, about your past, your future? Who would you be if you stopped blaming the world for your pain and instead saw it as your training ground? Nietzsche believed that the greatest individuals didn't rise above suffering, they transformed it. They took the chaos of existence and forged meaning from it, not by finding it, but by creating it. This is where things get uncomfortable. And because the moment you accept that meaning isn't given, that there's no cosmic judge handing out gold stars for moral behavior, you realize something terrifying. It's all up to you. Your joy, your purpose, your strength. No one's coming to save you. No one owes you understanding. And reality, it's not your enemy. It's your raw material. That's the essence of Nietzsche's message. And that's why so many people hate it. Because it demands too much. It demands ownership. It demands that you stop waiting for life to be fair and start becoming someone who can thrive in an unfair world. Someone who doesn't just endure pain but uses it. Someone who can look at reality with all its darkness and madness and say, yes, this too. I want this too. So maybe you don't hate reality. Maybe you hate your own weakness in the face of it. Maybe you hate the parts of yourself that haven't yet adapted to the truth. And maybe, just maybe, that hatred is a clue, a signal that it's time to evolve. Not by escaping the world, but by facing it so completely that it has no power over you anymore. The lie of the good life, why comfort is killing your soul. Let's talk about the dream you've been sold. The one wrapped in soft lighting, luxury aesthetics, and endless scrolling. The one that says, if you just work hard enough, stay positive, visualize and hustle, you'll get there. There, that mythical place where everything is finally okay. No more anxiety, no more struggle, just peace, happiness and success from the good life. But what if I told you that this dream, the dream sold to you by culture, media, self-help gurus, even your own friends, is a lie? What if, instead of elevating your soul, it's slowly killing it? Nietzsche warned us about this long ago. He saw how modernity was building not heroes, but comfort seekers, not creators, but consumers. He understood that when a culture starts worshipping comfort, it stops producing greatness. Because the soul doesn't grow in safety. It grows in fire. And here we are, in a world more comfortable than any other in history, yet more anxious, more depressed, more lost. Isn't that strange? We've eliminated so much pain from our external lives, and yet internally, we're breaking. Why? Because comfort, while soothing, is anesthetic. It dulls you. It makes you forget that life was never meant to be a flat line of pleasure. Life is meant to burn, to demand something from you, to challenge you, to make you suffer, to force you to become. Nietzsche didn't hate pleasure, he hated passivity. He saw how people, in seeking to avoid pain, also avoided greatness. They avoided the struggle that forges character, the chaos that sharpens the mind, and the loneliness that fuels self-discovery. And without that, what are we left with? A life that feels fine but never real. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly felt alive? Not entertained, not distracted, alive, when your heart was pounding not because of fear, but because you were standing on the edge of something real. That edge is where Nietzsche lived. That's the frontier he wanted us to walk, the line between order and chaos, between safety and danger, between the known and the unknown. Because only there do we feel the magnitude of existence. Only there do we meet ourselves. The lie of the good life is that you can have meaning without struggle, that you can have fulfillment without discipline, that you can have depth without dissent. But Nietzsche knew better. He believed that to live fully is to suffer nobly, to carry the weight of existence not with bitterness, but with style, with laughter, with courage, with the spirit of someone who says, yes, this hurts and I still choose it. But modern life tells you the opposite. It tells you to avoid discomfort at all costs, to medicate your sadness, to unsubscribe from pain, to block anything or anyone that challenges your worldview, and to build echo chambers instead of character, to seek validation instead of truth, to scroll instead of sit with yourself. And you wonder why you feel disconnected. You wonder why your soul feels small. Here's the brutal truth Nietzsche forces us to face. Comfort is not your friend. It's not evil, but it's seductive. It whispers that you're fine just as you are, that you don't need to change, that life should be easy. But if life were easy, what would you become? What would you overcome? What would you earn? Nietzsche believed that the worth of your life isn't measured by how happy you are, but by how much you've overcome, by how deeply you've carved meaning out of chaos, by how many times you've looked into the abyss and not turned away. And no, this isn't about glorifying suffering for its own sake. This is about recognizing that suffering is the price of transformation. That discomfort is a signal not to escape, but to engage. The pain of growth is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. So if you're running from pain, you're running from your own becoming. So I challenge you, stop chasing the good life. Stop obsessing over ease and comfort. Instead, chase the real life. The life that demands something from you. The life that humbles you, breaks you, rebuilds you. The life that doesn't just entertain you but awakens you. Because that's the only life that's worth anything. Beyond good and evil, the dangerous freedom of creating your own values. What if everything you believe is right and wrong? Everything you think of as good and evil isn't the truth, but just a story you inherited, not a divine revelation, but a human construction. A convenient fiction passed down through centuries of fear, control, and compromise. How would that change the way you live? Would you feel liberated or terrified? Nietzsche asked that question and he didn't flinch. He looked into the abyss of moral collapse and said, good. Because when the old values crumble, something extraordinary becomes possible, the creation of new ones. This is the part of Nietzsche's philosophy that most people don't want to hear. We like to question the system, but only to a point. We want freedom, but not too much. We want to think for ourselves, but still be told what's right. Nietzsche knew this. He knew that most people don't want truth, they want comfort. They want someone else to hand them a moral code, a list of dos and don'ts, a map of what a good person looks like. Why? Because inventing your own values is terrifying. It means taking full responsibility for your life. It means there's no one to blame, no higher authority to hide behind when things go wrong. It means stepping beyond good and evil and into the unknown. But Nietzsche believed that's exactly where we must go. Because every great human achievement, every civilization, every act of genius was born from someone who dared to question the rules, who refused to accept inherited values as final, who created their own meaning, their own code, their own life. He called this the path of the Übermensch, the overman, the one who transcends the herd and becomes a law unto himself, not in arrogance, but in authenticity, not in chaos, but in creation. Think about your own values. Where did they come from? Who taught you what's right and wrong? Was it your parents, your religion, your school, your culture? And do those values still serve you? Or are they limiting you? Are they keeping you stuck in a life that feels safe, but small? Nietzsche is not telling you to become immoral. He's telling you to become moral on your own terms, and to stop outsourcing your conscience, to stop living by rules just because they're old or popular. To ask yourself, what do I stand for? What kind of life do I want to create? And what values will I need to live that life fully? This is the dangerous freedom Nietzsche offers. Because once you realize you're the author of your own values, you can no longer pretend to be a victim of fate. You become the creator of your destiny, but also the bearer of its weight. There's no one to blame when you fail. No one to reward you when you succeed. Just you and the life you've chosen to make. And that's the terrifying beauty of it. Most people aren't ready for that kind of responsibility. They'd rather stay in the moral playground of ready-made rules. They'd rather cling to the comfort of good and bad as defined by others. But if you're still watching, if you followed this far, then maybe, just maybe, you're one of the few who's ready to step beyond. To stop being a moral consumer and start being a moral creator, and to forge your own sword instead of borrowing someone else's. But don't mistake this for easy. Creating your own values means confronting your deepest fears, but it means risking rejection, misunderstanding, even isolation. It means being willing to walk alone. Because when you no longer fit into the old moral template, people will try to pull you back. They'll say you've changed, that you're arrogant, that you've lost your way. But what they really mean is you're no longer controllable. You're no longer predictable. You've stopped playing the game. And that's the moment you know you're alive. When your values are not inherited, but earned. When they come not from obedience, but from experience. When they're not rules, but reflections of your highest vision. That's the Nietzschean ideal, not to be good according to someone else's standards, but to be great according to your own. And that greatness doesn't come from denying life's darkness, it comes from walking straight through it, and coming out the other side with something no one can give you, and no one can take away, your truth. Eternal return, the ultimate test of whether you're truly living. Imagine this: you're sitting alone in your room, and a demon appears not with fire, not with fear, but with a question. He tells you that every single moment of your life, every joy, every sorrow, every embarrassment, every triumph, every mistake will repeat, again and again, forever. Every breath, every thought, every glance, every loss. Not once, not twice, but eternally. Would you fall to your knees in despair, or would you rise with a smile and say, yes, do it again? This is Nietzsche's most haunting idea, the eternal return. It's not just a thought experiment. It's a spiritual mirror, a test of your soul. Because if you recoil at the idea of living your life on repeat, then what does that say about how you're living? If you wouldn't willingly relive today 1,000 times, then maybe you're not living at all. Maybe you're just surviving. Maybe you're avoiding. Maybe you're waiting for something to start, but it never will. This is your life, right now, and Nietzsche's question is brutal in its simplicity. Would you choose it again? We spend so much of our lives trying to escape the present. We fantasize about the future. We rewrite the past. We distract ourselves from the now with noise, with novelty, with numbing. But the eternal return demands that we look at this moment and ask, would I live this again and again, forever? Not because we get to change it, but because we finally accept it, and fully, without resistance, without regret. And that's where the power is. Because once you live as if every moment will echo through eternity, you stop wasting time. You stop lying to yourself. You stop postponing your becoming. You start choosing differently, more intentionally, more bravely. You start asking, is this choice something I would choose forever? Is this relationship, this job, this habit, this belief something I want on an infinite loop? It's not about being perfect. It's about being present, fully awake, fully responsible, fully alive. Because once you accept the eternal return, you realize something astonishing. You are the artist of your life. Every action you take is a brushstroke. Every word you speak is a note in your song. Every thought you think is a seed that will keep growing, season after season, life after life. And so the question is no longer what do I want to do today, but what kind of life am I willing to live forever? Most people don't want to confront this. It's easier to drift, to wait for permission, to hope that someday someone or something will save you from the weight of your choices. But Nietzsche doesn't offer comfort. He offers the most radical form of freedom, the freedom to say yes to existence, not just the parts you love, but the parts you hate. Not just the sunny days, but the storms. Not just the victories, but the humiliations, all of it, every page, every breath. Yes, because when you can say yes to everything, you become something rare. You become someone who doesn't run from reality, but dances with it. Someone who doesn't curse their fate, but transforms it. Someone who doesn't beg for a different life, but creates one worth reliving eternally. That's the Nietzschean ideal, not a life without pain, but a life so full of will, so full of purpose, so full of presence, that you would choose it again and again forever. So ask yourself right now, if everything in your life had to happen again, exactly the same, forever, would you celebrate or scream? Would your life be a blessing or a curse? And if the answer terrifies you, then good. That fear is a compass. It's pointing to the places where you've been asleep, to the choices you've been avoiding, to the life you've been postponing. But now you know. You've seen the truth. And the truth is this: you don't hate reality. You hate the version of yourself that hasn't had the courage to meet it fully. And that can change. You can change. Not tomorrow. Not when it's safe. Now. Because if this moment is eternal, then this is where it all begins. Again, forever. And you get to choose.